From America's beautiful coastal beaches to the hilltops of mountains far reaching, or even the gorgeous look of red rock in the desert, to a nice, vibrant day in a buzzing major metropolitan city, Americans are talking, and well, they're working too. And no matter which way a state votes, we're all still Americans in this large country of 300 million people. So here today to bring you America's perspectives are Matt Curran, Javen Polson, Gabriela Escudero, and Michelle Ferretta on Coast to Coast Conversations.
Yes, sir. Welcome in, everybody, to Coast Conversations on the Coast to Coast Network. We have less than a week before the election. We got 5 days to the election. So if you haven't already, go vote. Early voting closes in most states on Saturdays. I don't think a lot of people do early voting on Sundays and Mondays. And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube and X at the C2C Network. You can click the link below. If you're on YouTube, you can click the link below and it'll take you right there. We've got other shows. We've got the Clayton and Javen show. They've got their first episode coming soon. They talk about finances and that whole world. And then you've got the Matt Curran show. We just released an episode on El Paso politics, and upcoming we'll be talking about homelessness problem in Baton Rouge and New Orleans on the next episode. Well, guys, this has been a busy week. The last couple of days, our agenda has changed multiple times. We're gonna slow it down a little bit. We're gonna start off with a clip from Tim Walz, and if you haven't seen it, Tim Walz and AOC, they're playing Madden together the whole time here. If I can find the clip, they're playing Madden. It shows this idea that like they're trying to connect with men voters. We've got so many clips here. I'm trying to find it. If we can't find it, that is okay. Okay. Yeah, so Javen, have you seen the clip with Tim Walz and AOC playing Madden, and what are your thoughts on it here?
So I actually haven't seen the clip of them playing together. I know they played together. I saw the one of Tim Walz by himself playing a bit. I actually only saw like a minute of it because I was walking around. I just fast forwarded to one half it and only watched a minute of it. But from what I saw of it, it was, cringy to say. To use technical terms. I didn't feel as if this was his normal thing he usually did. I didn't believe that when you're doing something like playing video games, your audience are most likely going to be young men. And when they watch a streamer playing something, they want them to feel as if they're invested in it. And I don't think you got that from Waltz playing video games.
Michelle, we'll just kind of breeze through this and then get to the because we got a lot of clips to get to today.
Yeah, I totally agree. My daughter and her boyfriend are gamers, and they don't play sports. They play some role playing ones, but like you got to be authentic when you're playing and when you're doing those different live streams. Even AOC on her side as well. I mean, gamers, when your grandpa plays, they get really frustrated if they're actually playing a game, because grandpa, you got to show them the controllers, you got to show them this, you got to show them that, how you do it. And it just didn't seem authentic to me.
It's definitely not authentic. And then the idea that like, hey, I run a mean pick six play. That just did not seem authentic at all to me. So that's how the Harris and Walz campaign started off the week. Here's how the rest of the week went. We're going to play a joke, or I won't say a joke, just something from the Trump rally, starting with the comedian thing, and we'll walk through the timeline. We'll kind of go through each thing with everybody. So here's the very first clip with a Puerto Rican joke at the comedian at the Trump rally.
A lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody.
I don't even know what that means, following the national anthem, Javen. What do you think about this?
So Tony Hinchcliffe, I think he's funny. He's hilarious. He's a comedian. It's his job to try to attempt to be funny. Sometimes jokes don't land. Obviously, from the crowd's reaction, the joke did not land. I just think it's funny that the Democrats are trying to force a October surprise out of this. And I don't know if the people who should be offended, the Puerto Ricans, are actually going to take the bait and not vote for Trump because of something a comedian says. They've people who are probably voting for Trump have seen everything he says, and have been with him since at least 20, I guess probably since 2016. He's president. They've seen it all. They're like, this joke most likely is not going to sway how they vote. I just think it's just the left's attempt at trying to create an October surprise that is not going to happen.
What do you think, Michelle? I mean, Javen kind of has a point. He doesn't think that people will leave. It's too late in the game. But a couple Puerto Rican superstars did pull Trump's endorsement. Oh, you're muted here.
Landed at all. I think the joke didn't land right. And I do think that, the Puerto Ricans and they can see through it. It didn't land. Now Tony is hilarious. He is known for his very limit, push the limit jokes. But I also want to give credit to him because he also gives a platform for up and coming comedians that may not get a platform. He does give a lot of people with disabilities the ability to come and perform and laugh at themselves and laugh along with other people. So a joke didn't land, but I don't think it's going to persuade anybody left or right.
I didn't think it landed either. You can tell from the crowd's reaction there was a little bit of laughs, but a lot of people were like, a little too far. So you can't say that the crowd even loved the joke, And Donald Trump went on to Sean Hannity. That was the very first question. Later that night, he denounced the guy, says he doesn't know who it was. It started to feel in that moment that Democrats were going to run with this until Election Day, until almost like on a Paul Revere fashion. On our next clip here, Marco Rubio ran up the stage and announced to everybody what Joe Biden had just said. And we're going to play these clips back to back, both Marco and then the clip of Joe Biden.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I have breaking news for you, Mr. President. You may not have heard this. Just moments ago, Joe Biden stated that our supporters are garbage. Are garbage. He's talking about the Border Patrol. He's talking about nurses. He's talking about teachers. He's talking about everyday Americans who love their country and want to dream big again and support you, Mr. President. And I hope their campaign is about to apologize for what Joe Biden just said. We are not garbage. We are patriots who love America. And thank you for running, Mr. President.
You can see right there, Marco Rubio running up, Paul Revere. Mr. President, you're not going to believe this. The thing that we thought was bad is turning good now. It's turning good, Mr. President. He called us garbage. He's almost a little frantic-y, don't you think, Javen?
No, yeah, he was kind of excited to be the one to spread the word. And to Biden's comment, I mean, you don't insult voters. No matter what side, you don't insult voters. Unless you're Trump, you could probably get away with it, but you don't do that. And it kind of flashed back to Team Deplorables from Hillary Clinton when she called Trump supporters a basket of deplorables, and it does not serve you well, especially a race this tight. You need all the support you can get, and I can imagine with Michelle as the garbage bag proudly, but I can imagine when he said that, Harris's team just banging their head against the wall. It's like, who let this man out of the White House? Like, who let him out? Because he was doing so well, saying in the back, not saying anything, and now he has created their own October surprise for the Democrats, and that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. But to comment on his actual comment of garbage, if you go back to the video of the Trump supporters reacting to the comedian's joke, like Matt, you already said, they didn't respond in a big applause or laughter. They're like, oh wait, hold on. So obviously they didn't love the joke either.
Michelle, I know I said I put the clips back to back. My apologies. We'll have Michelle make a comment, and then we'll get over to the Biden clip.
Well, for the Biden clip, you know, with the Marco Rubio, with he is excited. I don't know that I would have been as excited to be able to carry that news like that, because that's just, you know, yes, that's going to be something that is going to stick, especially with, you know, middle class Americans like myself and you know, my husband, the electrician, and my brother who works, you know, as a union elevator guy. You know, it's going to stick, especially when then come flip side, Biden calls us garbage. At the same moment, Kamala's having her rally on the same, like basically in Biden's backyard, right? To use, you know, what everybody else is saying, you know, but where was Biden at her rally? He was literally sitting behind a computer at the exact same time calling me garbage. And then the spin on it, right? So you look at on the flip side, on the reverse, on a couple days later, we're still talking about it. We're dressing up, we're wearing our garbage bags, we're wearing our you know, our garbage man gear proudly, because it's going to stick with us. I don't know. Go ahead and you can play the clip.
I'll play the Biden garbage clip, and then we'll go through a round of reactions here.
My home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is just supporters.
Well, I'm glad the people of Delaware are not garbage, but everyone that supports Trump is. Look, to me, I learned two things. One, Joe Biden still needs to be 25th. And two, never trust a Biden with a laptop. Okay? Clearly, the Hunter Biden thing that mistake didn't transfer over to Joe. And whoever logged Joe in is going to be in some big trouble, David.
I'm totally David, I'm jumping in. Because of the spin afterwards, when they knew they messed up. They knew he messed up, because right away it was about a battle of the apostrophe. And you can't tell me otherwise that he didn't call all of us garbage.
That's right. That's Joe Biden not thinking quick on his feet. So here's Trump's two reactions to it. Very quickly, definitely taking political opportunity, like Marco Rubio trying to frame it.
So you have, remember Hillary, she said deplorable, and then she said irredeemable, right? But she said deplorable, that didn't work out. Garbage, I think, is worse, right? But he doesn't know, you have to please forgive him. Please forgive him, for he not knoweth what he said. How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
So he's taking full swings, going full force on it. It almost seems as though when the Democrats thought they had thrown a mean pick six, or when they thought Trump had thrown a mean six-pick play, that next thing you know, Joe Biden was the October surprise that he was just sitting right there the entire time. Joe Biden was the October surprise the whole time, and then Trump takes it. I think this garbage truck thing is going to be more memorable now than the McDonald's thing. Every week we're just upping it.
I mean, I don't think it's an accident. I think at this point, each side are going to try to grab it on wherever they can. I believe if we were called if Trump's supporters were called garbage like 4 months ago, it probably wouldn't be the biggest deal. I think it's more of a just, we're 5 days out, so we need something to, when you go to the voting booth, you need to remember he called Trump's supporters a garbage. So do you want to be team garbage? If so, yeah, vote for Trump. But of course, garbage being a positive point, a thing at this point. But I want to note though is Trump isn't innocent and not name calling. I mean, that's just he does it too. But this close to the election is the mistake that Biden made, and Trump to Trump's point, Biden does not know what he did.
Trump. I don't think Trump's ever supported if you're an Obama supporter, Clinton supporter, Biden. He attacks the person and the individual. I'm not saying it's right.
He
I'm just
did
saying.
say. Well, he did say that Harris voters, your wife is probably your wife and her boyfriend are probably voting for me. So he did make that.
Yeah,
And
that was at
Yes.
an Al Smith dinner for a joke.
And I
well, that's not
will,
even better. That was a
The
religious thing. That's even better.
I will agree. I have to agree with you, Dave, in that way. You know, he is a very sharp tongue. He is, he does, attack people just as much. And I totally have to agree too. 4 months ago, people wouldn't care, but they're trying to make at this point in time, in the election, with it being so close, it's neck and neck here in Wisconsin, with a 50-49. Any little slip up at this point can make it happen.
All right, so kind of diving into the next thing. So the media, it's almost like the Harris campaign and the media are tied together. Classic conservative media talking point here, okay? But here's something I noticed. You can't simultaneously say, hey, Trump's holding a rally at Madison Square Garden and the same location that Hitler had his thing in 1938 or whatever, and then turn right around and then get offended, as Democrats, be like, oh, well, we can't call them garbage, but calling them Hitler supporters is okay. Here's MSNBC right before the rally.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally, a rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
I just want to note, and I have the 15, 20-second clip that Bill Clinton in 1992 also accepted his party's nomination there. He also was in favor of immigration and deportation. Here's that quick little clip, just so we could say that, hey, if you're going to call Trump Hitler, then Clinton might as well be too. Just as a little bit of proof right here. Wow. Same thing as Trump. Wow. These evil people. Look at that.
I am
accepting my party's nomination for president of the United States. I mean, do you think that's a stretch? Hitler sat in a chair too. So does that make sitting in chairs bad, Javen? Just because you're in the same location, the same place, the place that happened to be there for 100 years, and Bill Clinton happened to sit in the chair and do the same exact thing?
Look, I think the Nazis were more likely to stop and frisk people, just saying. I don't even want to justify the MSNBC because at this point they're like, it's like the Babylon Bay or the Onion reporting a news story. It's not real. I mean, I'm not going to say all of their anchors are like this, but majority of them are like this. I mean, how can you willingly as a reporter tell your audience that because Trump is in the same location as a Nazi rally, that equates to him being a Nazi and a fascist? It's so unethical. That's all to say about it, because I don't want to give this any more of my time, because MSNBC is a joke, and I feel bad for people who watch it. I don't blame them. They are being brainwashed. They don't know they're being brainwashed, and I'm not saying it's just MSNBC, but they're being brainwashed. They don't know. I have a close family member. He texts me all the time. I saw this from Rachel Maddow. And I always say that's enough for me. That's enough for me to know. Watch this.
But do you think that this kind of rhetoric is what leads someone like Joe Biden, Michelle, to then call their supporters garbage? Like, it doesn't just come from nowhere.
Are you saying Joe Biden watches PMSNBC, in the words of the infamous Rush Limbaugh?
Yeah.
He used to call it. No, I think it's appalling. I think it's I think it's propaganda at its worst. I don't agree with that at all. And correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this like the 4th or 5th Madison Square Garden where they've like put it in different places? I want to, this isn't like even the same. And also, Bill Clinton wasn't the only one. You go back, Kennedy was there. It makes me so angry that people listen to this and then believe it and then don't actually look past it or change the channel or try and open to something else, because you need to have a breadth of information in order to make an educated opinion. And if you're only getting it from one side and it's this negative, year X, Y, and Z, it doesn't really do us any good. It doesn't do them any good.
And most of the people now, according to polling, are not getting their news from these mainstream media outlets anyway. They're getting it from podcasts like this and Joe Rogan and other famous or infamous people, right? So I think when you look at like the Washington Post, the New York Post, the LA Times not endorsing a presidential candidate, half of these media people are going to try to save face whether Trump wins or loses. Like, they see the writing on the wall. It's been going that way for a long time. You and I have seen it. But they have to make a decision. Do we want to try to gain back credibility? We're losing subscribers. We're losing viewers constantly, right? They got to make money somehow. I know a lot of these places are owned by billionaires, so they can just pump money into it. And if they don't lose money, great. It's a propaganda machine. It's not the first time in U.S. history we've had that, right? But they have to make a decision, or they want to keep endorsing and doing the same old like the New York Times does. So MSNBC clearly choosing a different route. I think CNN's trying to sort of split the baby a little bit. That's just my take on it as we see. And it's way more blatant because Joe Biden's been president.
And you brought up a good point, Matt, when you talk about like news sources. We bring up the age demographic of those that actually watch said news sources. You get, middle to older class citizens that are watching the mainstream media, whereas the younger generations are watching those podcasts. They're getting their information from long form media. And I think after this election, we are going to see a whole new dynamic and shift of how people get their information. And I'm actually really looking forward to that. If there's any positive light at the end of the tunnel, once this election is all done, I think we are going to see a whole new dynamic of media that people are going to be able to get their information from. And really, when we talk about the election, you think about it in how are they going to get that first, the free speech. One side is openly talking about censoring it, while the other side is not.
No, that's so true. I mean, there's a reason why some of these campaigns, they've been going to podcasts. They're not doing, they'll do like the mainstream media, 60 Minutes, Sean Hannity, Go on The View, like Kamala Harris did, but they're not doing as much of that. Part of it's because Kamala and Tim Walz are not going out there, but I do believe that's why that they especially Trump has been targeting all these podcasts, and you've been seeing people get excited that he's going on the podcast because it's never really been done before. Next up, because we were just talking about Kamala Harris, her failing media, Let's focus on her. So obviously, the sitting president of the United States, Kamala Harris's boss, versus a comedian and all this garbage stuff. Trump's taking opportunity of it. We haven't really been talking about Kamala herself. So she's been doing some last minute interviews. Here's one of them. We'll go through each one and react to it. Kamala Harris giving sort of the same old answer as if she hasn't learned from any of the SNL skits.
To Michigan voters, in terms of the economy, we have auto workers who are being laid off and those who fear that they might be laid off. The average person can't afford groceries or their rent. And recent polls in Michigan show that Michigan voters believe that Donald Trump would do a better job with handling the economy and bringing jobs back. What do you say to that?
Well, let's start with this. I come from the middle class, and I'll never forget where I come from. My mother worked very hard. She, by the time I was a teenager, was able to save up for our first home. And I understand.
She still hasn't learned. That's the classic answer. Everyone's making fun of her. Hey, what do you think about football? I come from a middle class family. So what? What is, to me, it does not make any sense. Like, however much wealth you have does not equate value. She thinks that if you're rich, you're evil. This is basically what it is. Or if you're poor, you're somehow like virtuous. You can have really mean poor people and really nice rich people. It doesn't, to me, the middle class answer doesn't work. She thinks, you can just tell because she keeps repeating that answer. Somehow, where you are on the wealth scale determines your values. Jabin.
Look, I'm glad she remembers she's from middle class because I always forget, and I'm glad she reminds me because I forget she's from middle class. But I gotta push back on it doesn't matter. Unfortunately, it does matter for voters that she is from middle class. I mean, because people want in a president, they want to see themselves. And I'm not saying she's doing it successfully, but I think the point of her reiterating "I'm from middle class" is her way of saying I'm one of you. I know what it's like to be not the bottom, but to not be at the 1%. And that's kind of her way of saying I'm different than Donald Trump. I had to work for everything I have. I have a
But is that
mom or dad who
resonating?
came with money.
Is
That
that
resonating?
pushing past that, you think?
It's not the deciding. I don't believe it's this deciding factor for a lot of voters. I think a lot of voters is just she's not Donald Trump. That's the deciding factor for I think most voters, and she's a woman and black woman. I don't think it's that she's one of us. I don't think people really. I think people care, but they don't care enough to vote for her because of that.
Michelle, do you think this is breaking through Gaul?
I think it's not in the location that she was in, right? You know, she was talking about the auto workers, and while the corporate union auto workers are backing her, the people like us are not, because they're the ones that are getting laid off due to the EV mandates that their administration is putting forth, and people aren't buying electric vehicles, so they're having to do layoffs and shutdowns, and they're worried about where their job is going to be if the policies that the administration has put forth are continued. And I don't think anybody really thinks about that. And I know that they're worried about that. So.
No, I mean, you bring up a good point. Like, she's not giving any meat to the policies. Like, I mean, I know abortion, and she's from a middle class family. Like, besides that, I mean, I know she said the no tax on tips thing one time, and then for some reason she didn't think the Trump campaign was going to call her out, that she stole that idea, and then she stopped saying it. So we don't know. And then she just throws like bland stuff out there, like, wow, opportunity economy. What does that mean? How do you know what it means? You present policy solutions. And you may not even agree with the policy, but at least you're submitting something. Be brave enough to put yourself out there. Speaking of, because we don't have time to go through everything that just went on for the last week. It was a bunch of news. Trump went on to Joe Rogan for 3 hours and I listened to the majority of it. It was amazing. I think I learned more about Donald Trump than I have in the last 8 years, just getting to know him as a person, some of the jokes thrown out there. I saw JD Vance was on there. Joe Rogan and Kamala Harris been working on a thing. She wanted 1 hour, and Joe Rogan has to fly all the way up to him. Joe Rogan said no. And any quick off reactions to that? I mean, I just don't think that she. This is part of the reason why they don't put her out there. She does not want to be known by the American people. She just wants to skate by. But we'll start with Javen and then.
I believe for an audience of Joe Rogan size, you're gonna have to compromise. I get you're the second most powerful person in the world, but Joe Rogan is the most powerful person in the world. So you need to say yes, because I I read somewhere, I heard somewhere that Joe Rogan's views, Fox News, ABC, CBS, NBC, they need a week of programs to catch up with one episode of Joe Rogan. So you got to do it. It does not matter how you feel. You got to do it. And it kind of shows that she does not like long interviews. An hour is what's comfortable for her, but you need to be able and to present as someone who's approachable, who you can talk to in a conversational setting, how Joe Rogan does it.
Yeah, I mean, I can go back all the way to even when Biden was running. Biden skipped out the Super Bowl interview. That is 5 minutes of prime time, and it's not even controversial. I remember when Obama did it. Bill O'Reilly, who tilts right but gives fair interviews, they're talking about like who's in the Super Bowl, what's kind of going on this year. You gave your State of the Union. That's right, Bill. And, I mean, it's easy stuff. It's 5 minutes, and I actually think the next time around, Joe Rogan will then become the new standard for at least a few cycles that presidential candidates have to go on there. Before we throw it over to Michelle, be sure to subscribe and follow us on our YouTube channel at C2C Network on YouTube and X. And our chat's open on X. If you have any questions, concerns, theological insights, feel free to throw them in there. Michelle's monitoring that for us, and we'll take your questions at the end if there's anything there. Michelle.
Yeah. So like I said before, I think that this is the future of the way people are going to be getting their media, the way people are going to be getting their information, the way we can introduce new candidates and things like that for future. I watched it. I was really intrigued by it. I know I watched how, Kamala tried to finagle the deal. And I even posted about it on my X. I'm like, if you can't negotiate a podcast term, how can we expect you to negotiate with world powers? Because you can't get an hour sit down to work out. I mean, I can't deal with that. It irritates me because I don't honestly think that she can sit down for that long unless it's scripted, unless it has, a pretense of background. You can't talk about this or you can't talk about that. And Joe Rogan is not like that. And I think that's refreshing when we can really see behind the curtain of who somebody is. Much like the JD Vance Theo interview with the comedian, it gets you behind the scenes. And while you go back to Kamala's Call Me Daddy interview, that wasn't a behind the scenes. That didn't seem, again, we're going back to authenticity. She didn't seem authentic there.
No, there's something about like you can see, Trump and JD Vance, Tim Walz, Kamala Harris, all of them, whether they're tensed up in an interview and they're like super scared or whatever. Like we've all seen the clip of Kamala Harris on The View. Is there anything you do different than Joe Biden? And she's looking up, like she's looking for words. She seems so confused of what she's going to say to that answer. Versus this upcoming clip. This is probably the most authentic I've seen Kamala Harris, and it's on Something Stupid. So Shannon Sharp, former NFL, I think wide receiver, tight end for the Denver Broncos, beat my boy Brett Favre in the Super Bowl with John Elway. But he is out there talking to Kamala Harris on a show. And I want to get y'all's reaction to this because I want to see, do you see the same thing I'm seeing? That this is the most relaxed you've seen Kamala Harris in an interview.
So breakfast. What does Madam VP eat for breakfast, or do you have time to, or is it on the go?
No, I when I was younger, I didn't think I needed breakfast. I wasn't a breakfast eater.
Okay.
Now I have breakfast every morning. It's usually a spinach omelet. It's not very exciting.
Right.
But it's protein with a little vegetable. And, I like chicken and apple sausage and some toast. And then I'm gone.
That's like the one thing I know about Kamala Harris. She loves food and cooking. Every time she's talking about cooking, she's like relaxed. She's into it. Everything else, she's tensed up, having to think super hard, serious, can't do it. And I see the same thing in Tim Walz. Tim Walz can be relaxed. Like doing that football Madden thing. He just looked so like he hated to have to do it. They did it on 3 p.m. on Sunday. And Tim Walz feels stressed because he doesn't want to step in it like he did the Electoral College comment. So he feels like the people at the campaign are restricting him. And I say feels like just based on observation. Michelle, what are your thoughts on, you're talking about authenticity.
I think the same. When you start to watch people's mannerisms and stuff, as you had said, she looks relaxed and comfortable. I saw one where, she was, one of her ads, she was cooking, making apple crisp or something like that. And it's nice to see that side, because again, I think that's more of the human in her, and we needed to see more of that. But on the flip side, I keep thinking of my pocketbook, and I keep thinking that every time I see her cooking or her talking about it, how much of an increase the Biden-Harris administration has cost the American family. And in Wisconsin, we have to spend on average $10,000 more a year just to afford the same lifestyle. And when she's cooking that stuff, I just start to see butter's gone up, apples have gone up, everything, the electricity has gone up. Oh, and she was cooking on a gas stove, which in New York, let's go. So
she wants to ban the gas stoves, Javen, but she loves cooking.
Yeah, like everyone. Look, I encourage everyone to, if you have access to it, HBO series called Veep. Watching that kind of put in for me perspective of a politician's fakeness and their authenticity. And I'll say the clip you just played, I didn't find authentic. She's someone who it's hard for me to find authentic. There was one clip that came out a couple weeks ago or last week where she and Governor Whitmer of Michigan, they were at the bar drinking, and one of the mics were hot above her, and you caught her saying, "I need to win to pick up ground with men," and then she looks up and says, "Oh, shoot, but not shoot. These mics are on. They hear everything we say." I think that was probably the time I saw her being authentic. It's like, oh, okay. So I feel like she really didn't know the mics were on. If she was, she probably wouldn't have said that. But it also kind of helps me know that she even sounded robotic there. That, okay, that's kind of how she is, actually. She just sounds robotic and sounds like she's reading from a script. So I have to give her grace now thinking about that. But that was the only time I really saw her as being authentic.
Interesting. So I agree with, I think we're all on the same page. She's not authentic. I thought the Shannon Sharpe thing, because they didn't talk about any issues on there, and if she did, it was the same old. I thought that moment was like the only authentic thing. I'm like, wow, she really loves cooking. Has nothing to do with the White House. Maybe she could be the chef. Here's another, it's not really authentic, another clip of just lack of instincts. We see Trump coming out with the garbage truck and doing that as a show. Good instincts there. Marco Rubio, good instincts there. This clip, zero instincts.
Okay, now I want each of you to shout your own name. Do that.
Matt.
Because it's about all of us. It's about all of us. And listen, I have fought my whole career to put the people first.
Like I said, everyone shout your own name. It would just be a big clutter of no instincts. No instincts. JB.
Look, I think
Michelle, I
you have
don't
to
care.
give her credit for trying. I mean, she tried something new, didn't work for her. Stick to the teleprompter. You're not Donald Trump. You can't go off the teleprompter. Yeah, it was just awkward because no one it just people weren't expecting that. It's like why am I shouting my own name? And again, watch Veep because that is literally something that would happen in the show Veep, and that's why I find it so funny because it's something that would actually happen in the show. Oh, and that should kind of say how unreal it is. But yeah, I mean, definitely shows that she's not very good off the cuff when it comes at invigorating a crowd like Trump is.
Yeah, Michelle, it reminds me of she was asked a question earlier in the campaign. What do you think off the cuff? And you're giving the same answer. She goes disciplined. And I thought this is what Hillary Clinton said in a debate. She's like, and I prepared for this debate.
Yes, like the crickets chirping. You could hear, the sirens in the background. It was hilarious, and I don't. I mean, I feel bad that fell flat for her as well, but it just goes to show that the world that we live in, you can't write it. It is hilarious and it is funny, and we are all human. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. People when Trump went to go get in his garbage can, it was wet and rainy and slick in Wisconsin and Green Bay. It's snowing in Wisconsin now. So so him slipping and they're trying, we're all human and we all try some things, and it it's funny. But I do need to push back on Javen from before, because when he had said that he didn't think that the food bit was as authentic, I thought it was, because who doesn't love food, and who doesn't love fried chicken and applesauce? I'm really sorry, like that is a great morning breakfast thing versus the other one.
Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe she was a chef at McDonald's. She hasn't produced any proof for it or anything, because she loves food so much. I don't know. I think this truck thing too with Trump is going to be more iconic than the McDonald's bit. That's just me personally. Um, so it just seems like Kamala, the campaign is not getting there. I don't know how the get out the vote operations are going for the Democrats. It doesn't seem like it's working well. I want to talk about some data really quick. So we're transitioning to that. Democrats are down 300,000 early voting in North Carolina. Republicans are number one for the first time in state history in early voting turnout. I haven't been able to find out any percentages, how much that's cannibalized. I've done a couple spot checks on just random people because we have an NC voter lookup thing you can do. Just got a couple of friends and acquaintances of people I know. Yes, everyone I know uses it as a stalking tool, unfortunately. But I was just looking it up, and it's like, some people are cannibalized, some people are not. It seems like it's a good turnout mechanism for the Republicans. I don't know how it's going in Wisconsin because they don't give us that data. I want to know, what is the turnout looking like in Wisconsin? And then I can give out Nevada and other updates too.
So I'm still on with my bet. Wisconsin is going to be one of the tie-breaking, if not the tie-breaking state as the swing state. But the numbers are so good for the get out the vote, turn out the vote. It is incredible in the WOW counties, the Washington, Ozaukee, and Washington, Waukesha, and Ozaukee counties. The early voting is insane in there. Now they're not at the 2020 numbers, which is not a good sign for the Democrats. And we are tied. We are tied right now, and we have cut the lead for Cami. It's insane. It's insane to see and watch, and I'm excited to see it.
I got a question for you, Michelle. Are you seeing people who didn't vote in the last couple cycles? Like maybe they didn't vote in 22, maybe they didn't vote in 20, maybe they voted in 16 and they skipped 20, whatever. Some combination where they didn't vote in the last election and they're not high propensity voters. Are you seeing those low propensity voters come out and vote for the Republicans?
Voting for the Republicans, we don't know. But from everything that it's looking on the ground that is swelling as well. I have personally taken a handful of folks, not taken, but I've personally talked to a couple of younger generation, 20 something. My daughter's boyfriend is a first time voter. He didn't vote the last election. He's voting this time because his pocketbook is hurting. My daughter and I, we early voted, pardon me, for the first time. I'm actually talking to a girlfriend of mine who has never voted before in a single election. And she's still undecided, and that's okay. She says she's really one of those that she's got to look at all of the issues, and she doesn't watch TV. She doesn't do any of the news or anything like that. So she's one that we're having conversations with. I'm having conversations with, because the human in me wants to know at the end of the day. And I told her, I was like, listen, I want to know. The human in me wants to know, but I don't care. I'm going to love you either way. Because that's who we are, right? But yeah, the first time voters and the early voters are huge.
Are you seeing a lower engagement? Because you were mentioning Democrats from
So
demographic in the Democrats.
On the flip side, yeah. So on the flip side, the Dane County, Milwaukee County, their numbers are lower than they were in 2020. So I want to say like the data, they were 80,000 less than what they were in Milwaukee County. And then we only have a couple days left of early voting. We've got tomorrow and Monday. Some rural counties are seeing increased turnout as well.
Interesting. Yeah, they're seeing that in Nevada too. Republicans are voting like their life depends on it. In Nevada, Republicans have early voted more than the Democrats for the first time in that state's history. I don't know if it's well, I won't say that. But then so Nevada is up. Pennsylvania, they're not beating the Democrats, right? But they are beating their numbers. Democrats are still lower. And in Michigan, they don't produce the data, so there's nothing really to see. But if you look at or the places around Wisconsin, like in Chicago, Minneapolis, what you said, Michelle, is right on. The Democratic turnout in Minneapolis and Chicago is down. Now, could these people show up on election day? In theory, sure. There's only one thing I'd caution the Trump campaign on is this is, men are typically voting more Republican. Women are typically voting more Democrat. We're seeing more of a gender gap. Women are 55% showing up to vote so far in early voting nationwide. Okay. In 2020, it was 52%. Okay. So men, especially men of any race, I won't say of any gender because it's one gender, get out and vote. Vote like your lives depend on it. Javen, I know you're in Louisiana. It's going red. Is there anything exciting that's going to happen in Louisiana? Any update on Louisiana politics?
I mean, the only thing I think of is Julie Letlow. We got a redistrict thing happen here, and then Garrett Graves is going to be kicked out, and Julie Letlow is going to take over that. So we're going to lose a seat in the House. Cleo Fields is probably going to, former Congressman Cleo Fields probably going to win that seat, and he's going to add a number for the Democrats. So that's probably going to happen. But I imagine that how the House goes, that number probably won't be that, or that vote probably won't be that big of a deal. But I'll say I am surprised of the early voting turnout when it comes to Republicans, because I mean, Trump, he's even said he's not going to be voting early, even though he said he was going to, because he hasn't been really promoting it as much. I'm surprised Republicans are out to vote early, because usually Republicans, it's a same day thing for us. I know I voted early, but I know it's a same day thing for us. It's great numbers. I'll just say I'm surprised about that.
I think that so in 2016, from people I've talked to, they when Trump became the nominee, it was obviously chaos as far as the old guard and Trump having to combine that. Came out of nowhere. The campaign wasn't smoothly ran. right? Democrats thought, Trump had cheated with Russia. Republicans thought Trump just pulled a rabbit out of a hat. 2020, it feel like there was a well-run machine. You had the COVID thing, you had to pretend all these rules with plexiglass and crap and whatever, right? This time it feels like a well-oiled machine. Trump has experience as a politician. He's still considered an outsider because of his China in a bull shop thing, his language, but this time it feels very well oiled and he's on guard. So I say all that to say, strategically, you tell everyone to vote early. Great. You say that in every rally. You don't vote early because there are going to be people that are going to show up on election day. If you're going to be the first to the polls, all the media is going to be on you, cameras, everything. He walks out. If you haven't voted yet, vote. I'm voting today. It's election day, right? I mean, so there's some tactics behind that. That's my opinion on it. And he's not perfect, but this campaign has been nailing a lot of good things lately. Would you all disagree with any of that?
No, I would agree with that. But something also I would add that's interesting to me is that women are leading when it comes to early votes, and that's surprising to me. I figured it'd be the men early voting. So my question kind of would be it's more a rhetorical question, but like what's leading to that? Why are majority of, I'm gonna say majority of women, but why are women at this point so set on who they're voting for? And where are they leaning on that? Or do we have more Harris voters that are like, I'm definitely voting for her? Do we have more Trump women who are like, I'm definitely voting for him?
And it's very interesting too how the Republican registration people are up, Democrat registration people are down, unaffiliateds are kind of about the same, and then you get that women gap. It could be maybe there's the amount of the Black Democrats, right? That demographic is way down, and it's being made up with like suburban women. This is just theories I'm throwing out there. Like it could be made up with that. It could be just a surge in Republican moms who don't want men and women's sports. I think that's an issue that's going to carry Republicans to the future. And there's Michelle. She does not want men and women's sports, right?
No, not at all. But I think, to your point, Javen, I think women's rights are why women are coming early. But in years past and in history repeats itself, women, that's the primary, they normally vote early. The majority of those women will vote early. We got other things to do on a Tuesday than take time from our family to stand in line and then to vote, or we have to bring our family with us to vote. So I think there's all these different parameters around why women have a higher propensity to early vote than men. Republican men have a propensity to vote on day of. So they, so it's too. I think it's too hard to tell right now, and it's too close to tell.
That's actually really good insight. I did not think about any of that. And I would say women in general are the backbone to the Republican Party. It was a backbone to Richard Nixon in his reelection. He thanked the Republican women tremendously. Ronald Reagan thanked the Republican women tremendously. They are always on guard. They're taking care of kids. They're raising them in society. So early voting is good for the soccer mom. Remember when we used to talk about the soccer mom as being sort of a swing voter? I don't think we even talk about that anymore. The soccer mom. Now it's just women in general. And it's very interesting. It'll be interesting to see if the Democrats constantly going back to the abortion well, like it produces any votes for them, versus now the Democrats have created all these other issues for women, like if that sort of peels off. And speaking of women, Mark Cuban made some comments that Donald Trump does not support or does not have any strong women around him. We're going to play that clip, have quick reaction, and we'll get to our last segment here.
Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women, ever. It's just that simple.
Donald Trump not around intelligent women, Mark Cuban, Joe Biden, they just keep insulting Trump voters, Michelle.
This made me so angry today. When I saw this, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. How dare you be so misogynistic, and yet you complain to us that our men are misogynistic? I mean, I wrote down, you think Kayleigh McEnany, I'm not big into sports balls, but you know what? I did look up who Mark Cuban sold his team to at the Mavericks, and I believe it was the Medal of Freedom owner, Miss Miriam Adelson herself, who was the Medal of Freedom honor from Trump. So, I mean, you look at Tulsi Gabbard, you look at, I had talked about Kaylee. There are so many strong women, Ivanka, so many strong women that surround him at all times, that I truly believe he had said I saw in one of his rallies that he wants to protect women. I believe that. I do believe in my heart that he wants to protect women. Do I also think that he, has some male locker room talk at the time? Absolutely. He's human. And it irritates me. And we talk about these last minute. And Harris, I want to hear what she has to say. She hasn't come out and talked about what Biden said, calling us garbage. She hasn't come out and now disavowed Cuban calling us stupid and dumb. And then you look at their ad this week where they've got women being scared of their husbands at the voting booth. Did you guys see that ad where, nobody has to know? There is absolutely no way in a healthy relationship where you have to be scared of telling your significant other your political views. And if you are, I'm sorry, but you're in the wrong relationship then.
I agree 1,000%. I saw that ad and I was like, so wow, she's encouraging people to lie to their spouse. Let's just divide. And I'll tell you this, my favorite woman that supports Donald Trump that has been by his side a long way, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And I actually thought she would have been a great VP pick. Press secretary did a great job. Very great mom. Now governor of Arkansas. She's doing a great job turning around Arkansas. Javen, what your thoughts on Mark Cuban doing this?
Yeah, Michelle, I didn't see the ad, but I heard about it. And I thought it was, till you said it again, I thought it was fake ad. I didn't go watch it. But someone said, you think it's real? I said, I think it's fake, but it can totally be real. They said what happens if booth stays in the booth. Like, that's interesting. But definitely be true. I respect Mark Cuban. I think he's a great businessman. I like that he stands for what he believes in. I think he is, all in all, a moderate guy. He has not donated to a political candidate, including Harris, since 2008 or 2007, because he believes that money should not dictate how policies get made. His ideas should be the reason why they want to support him. This comment was an ignorant comment. Do I think he was talking about women supporters? No. I think he was talking more about the women on his staff.
His campaign manager's a woman.
Yeah. So maybe that's who he was talking about. I think it was an arrogant comment or an ignorant comment, because you don't know these people. You don't know these people.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about them. All you know from most people are what you hear from MSNBC and people like The View. And I would be more upset, but I know he isn't, if you're talking about Nikki Haley, but he voted for Haley, so I know he's not talking about her. But yeah, I mean, I don't believe he meant the voters. I think he's a knucklehead. He said something he should not have said. You don't insult women. Oh my gosh, you don't do that. You don't do that. That's not chivalrous of you. So if someone comes from the South, you don't insult any kind of women.
And that's one thing that's bothered me. You said it, but like, I'm not upset with you. It's more of the mainstream media overall. Oh, it's just Joe talking. Like, give him a break. He didn't mean, it was the apostrophe. Yes, that's what. It's Mark Cuban. He didn't mean that. But Trump, good people, both sides, hoax and all that stuff. I mean, they don't give Trump any grace on misspeaking. But Mark Cuban and Joe Biden, they misstep all the time, and we're supposed to like give them grace and just be like, oh, that's Mark, that's Joe.
No, 100%. You're right. If I don't remember the guy's name, but the billionaire who's not Elon Musk, but make sure Elon Musk. If Elon Musk said that about Biden, oh my gosh, or about Harris, oh my gosh, he would be crucified. Trump would be attacked for what he said, and
Trump was attacked because a comedian he doesn't know.
Exactly. I mean, there you
Joe.
go.
I mean, so it's like,
there's
oh,
your point
it's
right there.
this-
No, you're 100% right there. They're sweeping this under the rug. But what the comedian said, is a bigger deal than what Mark Cuban, who is actually a surrogate for Harris's campaign. The comedian is not a surrogate for Trump's campaign. I don't know I guess a comedian. I guess Tony is Republican. I'm surprised he's MAGA. I didn't think he'd be MAGA. But no, you're right. It's definitely a double standard, and definitely something that should have more light shed upon it. But Mark Cuban, I still love the guy. I think he's great. If he ran for president, I would vote for him 400 times.
Can I add? I respect that. I didn't know. That's something that I learned about Mark Cuban, about not putting his money into politics, because I can respect somebody that does that, because absolutely.
I think it's cool that Mr. Wonderful is on the Trump side and hangs out over there. And this is Shark Tank people, because Mark Cuban's in the Shark Tank with Mr. Wonderful, and then Mark Cuban does the other side, and then they do the Shark Tank thing, and they're totally friends. I actually do think it's cool. I like Mark Cuban's personality. Don't like any of his policies. I think he is piping up down the wrong tree. He's trying to kind of be like this Elon Musk on the left, but it's not really working. He's been doing this for the last year or two, being like, I'm going to be a voice for the Harris campaign or Biden campaign, whatever. It just comes off as anti-Trump to me at least.
Also, I want us to recognize that we are living in a very historical time and in a crazy time. We have so many outspoken billionaire, businessmen, millionaires in politics. This doesn't happen because they're so scared of the consequences. But you have people like Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, Bill Ackman, who are okay with saying, I'm supporting this candidate. And it's something that is definitely, I'm not going to say that we should worry about, but I know most Americans are worried about money and politics, and it's going to get a lot worse in the future down the road. I mean, actually, it's been like this since as long as we can remember. Now they're just in public doing it, actually. So now we have a face to the dollars. And I will say, Elon Musk, in my opinion, is going a little bit too far. Still respect the guy, great business guy. I love Tesla. I think he's going a little too far with stuff he's doing. But that's
like what?
Matt, you had something to say. What?
No. I'm just saying, what is he going too far on?
Oh, the whole giving $1 million to people who registered to vote and then not showing up for his court case. But more of the and I mean, like, I said this off air, but he has changed the algorithm of Twitter for most Americans. Most Americans, this was a Wall Street Journal report, they are getting more right-leaning feeds. And he can do that. I think it's okay for him to do that because it's privately owned. The government should not step in. He has right to do that. But it's just someone who is so pro free speech and comes off or wants to come off as moderate, it doesn't look good for him.
And Javen, which is weird because we had talked about that I see more of the left-leaning algorithm. I see a lot more on my For You page that way. I encourage you to go back and start to watch one of JD's interviews with, I don't know if it was with Theo or if it was one with Rogan here today, talking about lobbying in Congress. And he makes a really, really interesting point about wishing he could pay his chief of staff or his staffers more, but he can't because of the regulation. So they don't make money now. So they get into, after they're only allowed, after they're done working in their politics, they turn into lobbyists because that's where the money seems to go. And I'm really bad at paraphrasing his, but I'll find it and I'll send it to you. It's really interesting to see his take on getting lobby money out of Washington.
And I'll say that is one thing I will say that should go away. I mean, I think, Michelle, you were saying that. I think lobbying money is too powerful in Washington, D.C. However, I do 100% agree with the Citizens United Supreme Court case. I do believe that businesses are people, but ordinary people don't have the power businesses do. So there has to be some kind of line there.
I want to won't say push back on Javen, but just slightly disagree. I think the reason you're seeing all these business people come up, just kind of circling back to that is sort of the American dream now, is to be able to own your own business, entrepreneurship, seeing successful people. That the business people are like the celebrity themselves. Like Donald Trump did The Apprentice, was a celebrity himself. Mark Cuban, Shark Tank, owns the Mavs, walks around with a cigar when his team wins the NBA championship finals. He's becoming a celebrity. Not every rich guy is a celebrity. Okay, Ronald Reagan came out as a celebrity, not necessarily a rich guy. Richard Nixon made his version of politics a celebrity, one of a kind. 2 fingers up over here. But I that's where I would disagree with you on that, because there's still a lot of quiet people who are business people that aren't publicly saying this stuff because they either are CEOs of major corporations and they don't want to ruffle any feathers, anything like that. On the Citizens United, I agree 100%. It's funny how the Democrats are the ones that balked and complain at it, and now they own all the money space that I don't even think they're pushing to overturn it. The Clintons really hated it because the corporations used to be big Republicans and they used to own that, and now it's the Democrats. It's just funny how things switch over time.
No, yeah, you're right. Because I saw another report in Wall Street Journal today. Harris has more billionaire funding and millionaire funding than Trump does at this point. Now, Trump's maybe more outspoken, but Harris still has most of the money. So people want to kind of back to our earlier conversation. People, her middle class thing. People want to see her as relatable as not being part of the swamp and part of the big money, but she is. Big money is funding her. If you look back at her tax plans and taxing the rich on unrealized capital gains, she has not did whole 180 on it, but she has moved a lot more to the center. She has pandered a lot more to the center and the right when it comes to a lot of her tax policies on the rich.
Because I think those rich people, they'll ask for carve outs. They'll say, "Hey, okay, please don't do that, but give me an exception or a tax break on the law," and she'll be more willing to do that.
Oh, yeah, because if you look at the Trump tax plan, she has promised to overturn the entire Trump tax plan, but there's a portion of the tax plan that gives subsidies and money to these green energy factories and companies, and a lot of them are saying, okay, just keep this, and she has said that she will keep that part of the bill. So it's shown that, no, she is, I'm not saying she's not for the middle class, but not to the extent as she wants us to believe. And I'm not saying Trump is either. I'm just saying she is not to the extent that she wants us to believe.
Yeah, Trump's taking money now. He's still seen, and I think more independent for himself, being a billionaire himself. But at this point, he's still got an attachment to coalition groups still that he needs, and the money and all that stuff. All right, well, we will transition to the last
Rant
segment.
and Raves.
All right, Javen, hit us up first with rant and raves.
It was hard to decide between a rant or a rave, but as we're so close to the election, and I can't use this. Well, I probably can't use it, honestly, for after the election, but I'll use it now. My rant. Wall Street Journal article came out again. One of the states that will decide the election have become the ground zero for these claims of election fraud, and that's Pennsylvania. We are going down this road again of claiming the election is going to be stolen before the election has even started. And it is tiring. It is sad. It's disappointing that we have succumbed to this. And I just want to say, you live in the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world, the best country in the world, the freest country in the world. And maybe I'm naive, but it's so hard for me to believe that the U.S. government, one, is functional and capable and efficient enough to steal an election, but has the mass support to do it. I don't believe 2020 was stolen. I don't believe 2024 will be stolen. And that is my rant. Just love democracy, believe in democracy, and I would love for someone to push back on me on this if you want to. Just, that's my rant.
Because you'd be in jail. Michelle.
I am not going to even go near that at all. I'm not touching it because I have no idea. I'm not even my rant though. I'm gonna totally flip gears. In our great state, we have a Senate up for election. We have Tammy Baldwin, who is the incumbent, and Eric Hovde, who is in his mustache. He's like the Bronte. He looks like the Brawny man for sure. Anyway, Tammy Baldwin, she's on her tour, and she was so excited to post about ice cream with Tony Evers, and it really irritated me because it was like 3 days after Trump's McDonald's bit, and she went to McDonald's, not Culver's in Wisconsin, not any local Wisconsin joint that has ice cream. She went to McDonald's. So for her to, fight against corporate bigwigs, for her to go to McDonald's really irritated me when we have amazing ice cream here, or soft serve, or all of that sort of thing. Culver's, highly recommend. So it irritated me. That's my rant. Going back to food. And then who fixed the ice cream machine at McDonald's for them to come in for this photo op? That's what made me the most angry.
She should have went to Roadside Diner.
That place is so good. Oh, so good. Their burgers are good too.
And Culver's is expanding. They just opened up one here in North Carolina. I told my wife, hey, we need to go because I know they got good ice cream. I also like the cheese curds. That's like the only place I know, at least here in North Carolina, I can get them. I know they're not the authentic kind because that's a food chain, but they're still pretty good. My rant and rave is it's gonna be a question at Javen just as like a test. Do you know who won the World Series last night? And don't say the Chargers.
It was LSU, obviously.
Cubs.
It was the Cubs. It was the Dodgers. It was the Dodgers. They beat the New York Yankees.
That's right. Good job. Okay, so for a second I thought you were gonna say like the Rams or something.
Hey, I was close. I would not have known if I don't have notifications on my phone to tell me that kind of stuff because I don't keep up with baseball.
Okay, good. No, that's good that you got that right. So you're 1 for 1 on your sports thing for this year. One more, and you might fail the semester. But the Dodgers, a couple games ago, dude's making a big catch. I don't know if you saw it. It was going out of bounds, and a Yankee fan is coming and grabbing his glove and then rips the ball out. And it was like, okay, they called it out. To me, look, I understand fan interference is a thing. And that fan totally deserved to get ejected. I know there are Yankee fans that are like, that doesn't happen. I'm like, dude, you cannot interfere with it. You have to let them play. I understand it's the opposing team, and you're going to try to spack it out. And that happens sometimes in baseball. But it's just showed bad sportsmanship overall. And I thought it made it really interesting because at first the umpire thought it wasn't an out. And then he had to argue with the player for a second and then called it out. That's my rant is like, I used to hate replay in baseball because it made the game slower, but in that one case, I agree with it. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna know the results next week. Go out and vote, as Barack Obama would say. Don't boo, vote. So go out and vote. All right. Well, y'all have a blessed evening, and we'll see you next week with some results.